Hi. Today we're discussing Sutra 6.1, 123, 88 in Siddhanta Comedy. Avang sportayanasya. Avang sportayanasya. Anuvritti is Achi Padantat Goho Engaha Vipasha. Achi Padantat Goho Engaha Vipasha. Now we'll think a little bit more about this anuvritti in a minute. So the full sutra would be Padante Engaha Goho Achi Sportayanasya Avang Vipasha. Padante Engaha Goho Achi Sportayanasya Avang Vipasha. According to Sportayanasya Mate, we could say, according to Sportayanasya, in place of a final go, gohostane, shashti, gohostane, padante, a word final go, which ends with eng, engaha, which is followed by ach, and ach, avang will come optionally. Avang will come optionally. So, the meaning is not ambiguous. It may take a little while to process, but padante engaha goho achi pare sportayanasya mate avang Vipasha. According to Sportayana, in place of a word final go, Padante Gohostane, which ends with eng, engaha, and which is followed by ach, achipare tasminiti nirdishte purvasya, avang will come Vipasha, optionally. So, we can grasp that pretty well, but there are a couple of interesting little quirks here. One is, if you think back, for quite a while, it has been ati, when short af follows. When short af follows, padantatati. And this is now achipare. Now, where did this achi come from? Well, that's a good question. And there is a division of opinion among the historical commentators. So, but the idea is, or one idea that I guess the leading idea is that it is another Manduka Pluta anuvritti or adhikara, which has jumped all the way from Ikoyanechi, all the way back from Ikoyanechi, just to be here in this sutra. Well, that's interesting. Why is that, and why is this not ati? Well, ati would cause problems here. There are forms that would not be correctly formed if this was ati pare, when ati follows. So this is one of these times when we have to rely on the explanation of the learned, and I'll come back to that term in a minute. Vyakhyana, the explanation of the learned. But the thing is, another little interesting thing is that the learned don't always agree on things. And so we're left to kind of, well, make up our own minds. Luckily, what makes sense to us or what we're comfortable with doesn't matter to anybody else. So we can sort of think about what these are. And and not necessarily choose something, but see the reasoning behind the different opinions. So, okay, so that's one thing. Achi padantat gohu engha vipasha. Now, we said, without worrying about it too much, which ends a go which ends with eng, in place of go which ends with eng, avung comes. Avung. Now, what gohustane, shashtistane yoga, and then we have the rules of the road. We said in place of go, avung comes. So down here, I have reminded us of those rules of the road. I'll try to bring them a little bit more into focus. So the first one, and the one that is often the governing concept, is alontyasya. Alontyasya. So the replacement comes in place of the final one, alontyasya. Well, that's great. That's great. But then we have a little bit of a dilemma because the substitute here is avung. And by our mathematical computations, that's got more than one letter in it. And there is this sticky wicket of 1:155, which says, anekal shit sarvasya. Anekal shit sarvasya. So if the substitute is more than one letter or has sh for it, it comes in place of the whole thing. Well, that would kind of spoil stuff if all of go got replaced by avung. So if we had go plus agram, it would be just avagram. That wouldn't work out very well. But then there's one more of the rules of the road, as I call them, which comes right after alontyasya, and that is ngitcha. Ngitcha, which was a little bit puzzling when we first discussed this. So a substitute comes in, adesha comes in place of alontyasya, the final one. And then ngitcha, well, that's saying also one that has for it. For it. So this is going to fix everything for us, because the adesha here is avung, which is more than one letter, but we do not want it to come in place of all of go. We only want it to come in place of the o of go, and that is fortunately going to be okay because avung has ng for it, so it is ngit. And it is ngitcha, also alontyasya. So that's how we get the satisfying result that, according to Spotayana, in place of the final go, which ends with eng, namely o, so that's not a problem, and is followed by ach, avung will come, and that's how we know that it's just in place of the o, alontyasya. Now, there's one more issue here, and that is vipasha. I guess I'll keep this here. So we have taken as anuvritti vipasha from sarvatra vipasha goho, the preceding sutra. Well, that's nothing wrong with that. But that sort of, again, tilts the table in terms of Spotayana here, because by taking vipasha as anuvritti, it emphasizes that Spotayana is being mentioned out of reverence, not just to say it's optional. And the thing is, not everybody agrees that vipasha should come as anuvritti here. But again, that's just kind of an interesting side of the story. So if we take all this and put it together, this is what we get with our the effect of the sutra. So we have the example of go plus agram, go plus agram. So go is go ending with eng, as it so often is, and agram starts with a vowel, and ach happens also to be an ut, but in this case, it's any description would do. It could be ati pare or achi pare. And so by this rule, today's rule, avungs portayanasya, the form could be optionally gavagram, because ava would come in place of the o. So you would have gava plus ga plus ava, so you would get gavagram. That's fine. That's an optional one. Theoretically also, because these others are optional, from 61122, we would have sarvatra vipasha goho, sarvatra vipasha goho. So go would be followed by ati pare, and optionally it would remain as it is, sarvatra vipasha goho. And finally, we would have another option, 61108, engaf padantadati, and you would get go garam with a avagraha in between in the written form to show respect for the missing or the deleted a. So you would have three possible forms according to this recent series of sutras. Gavagram by avungs portayanasya, go agram by sarvatra vipasha goho, and go gram by engaf padantadati. Now, here's where there's another little wrinkle, which, okay, so I try not to point fingers here and there because I'm not actually criticizing anything. But I recently made an attempt to discuss the various forms of being optional in the grammar, and we discussed 4 flavors of vibhasha, although I think I didn't say much, if anything, about it, about the 4th one, but I did include it in the notes. That is the prapta vibhasha. No, I'm sorry. That is the vyavastita vibhasha, and that is because one of the discussions of this that I found was in Professor Sharma's description of Naveti Vipasha, in which he described Vyavastita Vipasha, which is got the paradoxical translation or meaning of obligatory Vipasha. Well, what the heck is an obligatory option? Well, we'll see. But he also says that it's very rare, and the example he gave, I admit to not completely following or endeavoring to completely follow. But then, as these things happen, it turns out that today's sutra, avungs portayanasya, is described by, not by Professor Sharma, but by Toji Dikshita, says that this sutra, avungs portayanasya, is a vyavastita vipasha. And somewhere or other I saw that there's an idea, I don't remember where, that the sutra following a vipasha is a vyavastita vipasha. So this sutra of avungs portayanasya follows sarvatra vipasha goho, so it follows the regular vipasha, and that is one way of understanding this being vyavastita vipasha. in any case, Batoji says it is. And where does that leave us? It leaves us that from that point of view, the only one of the three options we discussed is the one related to avangspotayanisya, namely gavagram. Gavagram. So otherwise, in theory, the others would also apply, but taking this point of view, it would only be gavagram. And this is where I just return to this concept, vyakhyana, according to the knowledgeable ones, and this is Haridatta on Kashika. So there you have it. The meaning is no more complicated than any of our recent sutras. And there are these little intricacies that at this point I think are worth noticing. So according to Spotayana, in place of a word final go, padante go, goho, which ends with ing, and we know that as discussed, which is followed by ach, a vang will come optionally in place of the o of go on account of ngitcha. There you go. Thank you.